Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're embarking on a pretty fascinating deep dive, actually. We're looking at a very specific perspective on modern dating.
Right, specifically from midlife men.
Exactly. And our source material today is, well, it's quite unique. Excerpts from an article called Midlife Male Perspectives on Modern Dating and Women.
Mm-hmm.
And this piece offers a really distinct lens, doesn't it? It's written by a 52-year-old man. He draws on his personal life, his past work as a therapist, and even his observations as a historical novelist.
What a background.
Yeah, and he's reflecting on why, at least in his view, many men age 50 and over often, well, reject potential female partners.
Okay.
So our mission for this deep dive, really, is to unpack that, to understand the arguments he's making, not necessarily to endorse them, obviously, but just to grasp the core ideas he's putting forward.
Exactly. We need to explore the generational differences he talks about, the lifestyle expectations, physical preferences, all central to his narrative. It is a very singular voice, so our goal is just to understand what he believes stands out for his demographic.
Okay, so let's dive right in then. Where does he start?
Yeah.
He kicks things off by stressing that men in his age group, they don't just expect certain standards from partners, they're actually, living them. Things like fitness, keeping active.
An active lifestyle.
Right, and avoiding habits like, say, excessive drinking. He's quite direct about it. He even calls out men who complain about women but are, out of shape themselves.
Yeah, and what's really interesting there is how he positions self-discipline. For him, it's not just like a good personal trait. He calls it the foundation for having standards in a partner.
Yeah.
So he directly ties a man's own commitment to these things to his expectations for a woman.
So it's like personal rigor earns you the right to be discerning.
That seems to be his angle, yeah. It's quite a strong framing right from the get-go.
Okay, now here's where it gets particularly specific and maybe quite direct, as you said. A really central theme is his strong disapproval of obesity and, well, poor physical fitness.
Right.
He considers them unattractive, sure, but also incompatible with his own active lifestyle. That's a key phrase.
Incompatible.
And he also mentions a clear dislike for tattoos, piercings, certain modern fashions. He sees them as red flags, not just, individual expression.
Yeah, and this really brings up that question about generational views, doesn't it? Personal expression versus maybe a more classic appeal. He actually claims, quote, "Many men of his generation share this sentiment, even if it is rarely expressed openly in mixed company."
Wow. Okay, so he's saying it's a common, if perhaps hidden, viewpoint.
That's what he suggests. And while he sort of acknowledges these views could be seen as offensive, he insists it, quote, reflects an honest generational viewpoint grounded in lived experience.
So for him, it's fundamentally about a clash of values, generational values.
It seems so. Less personal whim, more perceived cultural difference. That's how he frames it.
Okay, that's a pretty significant claim he's making there, that these are widespread, even if unspoken. Then he kind of shifts gears a bit, talks about the dynamic of attraction itself. He argues that these middle-aged men who are fit, financially stable, self-respecting, they tend to attract women naturally.
Okay. So what's the consequence of that, in his view?
Well, he says it means they don't need to pursue partners they don't find appealing, which leads to, quote, selective dating choices and the rejection of women who do not meet their personal criteria.
Right. So if we connect that to the bigger picture he's painting, he's essentially presenting a dynamic where self-improvement gives these men a kind of power or advantage in the dating market.
A position of power, yeah.
It's about using that personal discipline to create options, allowing them to be more discerning. It highlights a particular power balance, or at least his perception of one, within this specific dating landscape.
Where fitness and finances lead to being more selective.
Exactly. A more comfortable, maybe, approach for them.
And he doesn't stop there with the critiques, does he? He talks about what he sees as superficial displays in modern culture.
Ah, yes. The examples he gives.
Well, like revealing gym wear he mentions or extreme hairstyles, he suggests these things, well, they don't compensate for a lack of personality or deeper qualities.
He's drawing a very clear line there.
Yeah, between fleeting trends and something more enduring.
Precisely. He really emphasizes that for men his age, attraction often hinges on a combination of classic beauty, self-respect, and shared values. Not so much on trends, or as he puts it, overt physical display.
So a real focus on inner character, shared values, timeless appeal over current fashion.
That's definitely the distinction he's making. A clear preference for substance as he sees it over style.
Okay, so Pulling all these threads together then, what's the core takeaway from this author's perspective? It seems to be that for many men 50 plus, rejecting potential partners isn't just about like personal taste. It's rooted in this perceived clash of values, this emphasis on self-discipline, and a preference for, well, traditional aesthetics.
I think that's a crucial summary, yeah. This article gives us a very specific, singular viewpoint. It's drawing heavily on his own experiences, his professional observations, that strong generational perspective we mentioned. It really offers a window into one man's honest assessment. Maybe challenging for some, but his assessment of the dating scene for his demographic.
Yeah, challenging is a good word for some of it, perhaps.
It highlights how deeply those personal standards can shape relationship choices.
Absolutely. This deep dive has definitely given us a fascinating look into one particular and very direct perspective on midlife dating. We've explored how this one individual, with his unique background, frames his views around those generational differences, personal standards, and these really specific preferences for fitness and style.
It really does encourage you, doesn't it, to think about how all these things intersect. Personal values, societal trends, individual life experiences. It's all tangled up in the complex world of relationships. What stands out most to you from this particular perspective, how it frames those expectations?
That's a great question for everyone listening too. And as we wrap up this deep dive, here's maybe a final thought to mull over. How much do our own personal standards really change or stay fixed across our lives?
Yeah.
Especially when we bump up against changing cultural norms and different ways people express themselves. And how does that whole dynamic impact how we connect with others and ultimately what we're actually looking for in a partnership?